If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and we got a lot to do as we do every single Wednesday. We just have a lot of things to cover on Wednesdays. It appears Koki Riley's going to be along in 15 minutes talking LSU baseball. He was at the box last night for LSU and ULL. Jay Johnson met with the media earlier today in advance of LSU's 3-game set that starts tomorrow with Mississippi State. So Koki in 15 minutes is a What If Wednesday. Get to some of those at 1:30. Talk some Saints at the end of this hour. Matthew Bruni's going to be along at 2 o'clock talking LSU Lady Tigers basketball as they head up to Spokane, Washington for the Sweet 16 later on this week. I've got my thoughts on LSU, ULL, or SEC baseball power rankings. LSU's lost their first weekend of the year. What do I think about that and how it relates to LSU in the rankings? We'll do all of that over the next 2 hours, so lock us in. Start today the same way we start every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Yesterday, we got to some sound from Joe Sloan, LSU offensive coordinator, who met with the media, and we didn't get to all of it. And there were some things he hit on that I thought were relevant. Yesterday, we talked a lot about LSU's tight ends. We've discussed the running game a little bit over the last couple of days as well. But obviously, when you talk to the offensive coordinator, I think it's relevant to talk about the quarterbacks. And LSU is in a very, very strong spot entering the year at quarterback because you've got one of the nation's top passers returning for his 5th year. You can have whatever opinion you want to have about Garrett Nussmeier's overall play last year. A discussion you can't have is that LSU is compromised or playing from behind at quarterback. Like, there may be a guy or two in the SEC that you might look to in front of Garrett Nussmeier if you're an LSU fan. I'm not real confident that I would do that. I mean, DJ Lagway seems primed for a strong year after the end of last year. A lot of people were really high on Arch Manning, obviously. Lenora Sellers closed out last year very, very strongly. But you want Nico Iamaleava? I feel like LSU's in a really good spot at quarterback, and I think that that Joe Sloan agrees. But it's not just Garrett Nussmeier. He kind of likes the way this entire thing looks. And in this day and age, you got to realize it's unrealistic to have 4 guys ready to go at quarterback at a given time. Like, that just doesn't happen in this day and age in college athletics because quarterbacks, more so than any position in collegiate athletics, transfer. But LSU's starting from an advantageous spot with Garrett Nussmeier at the front of the line. Michael Van Buren comes in after a half a year's start at Mississippi State. You still got on the roster, you've got Colin Hurley, and then Juwan Johnson has moved over. So you look at LSU, and they feel like they're in pretty good spot as far as the quarterback room goes, and Joe Sloan spoke to the entirety of that position group.
Excited about the room. I think Mike's done a great job. He's had his learning the offense, right? That's been a big piece for him. When he gets comfortable, he got comfortable there midway through, played really, really well. Then we got in some new situations, right? Now we get back in those same situations. Now he's playing well again, right? I think he's doing really well. He's battling through, and he's working on the things he needs to work on. So I couldn't be more excited about what Mike and the growth he's made, and then Jawan and some of the different things that he brings and what he's done in some different unique situations and packages. I think he can help our football team. So excited with the group.
So that's the totality of the group. Let's take them one by one. And, of course, you start with a starter, and that's Garrett Nussmeier, who, everybody's going to say this until they play on Labor Day. Like, look at the jump from year 1 to year 2 to that 5th year. Zach Muttenberger to his 5th year, huge jump. Joe Burrow to his 5th year, huge jump. Jaden Daniels to his 5th year, huge jump. And that'll be the talking point, and that's fine. I think it's a lot, but that'll be the talking point to put on Garrett Nussmeier's feet. So how about Joe Sloan, who works with him every day, thinking about going into his 2nd year as a starter?
Garrett was prepared to play, but then there are certain things that he needed to go through that you can only get preparation by playing. You can only get the experience by playing. And I think he's learned from that. This offseason has been able to be a little bit different because now he's going back, and when he's studying, he's not just studying his practice tape or maybe our tape and what could happen. He's looking at specifically some stuff that he needs to improve on. And I think he's been really intentional. Really, some of our staff did a great job of breaking some different things down for him so he could really see some individual things and he could take back control of those situations. Whether it be something technical with a throw, whether it be the understanding of a defense, whether it be how we're playing, whether it be our footwork, all different kinds of things, and being able to really be intentional, take control of that, and make those corrections. And the big thing now is taking that to practice, and really a lot of it he's been doing a great job with. And then there's still some things, right? We're still a work in progress, and I think he's done an excellent job of attacking that. I couldn't be more proud of him.
When I wrote a piece on LouisianaSports.net about Garrett Nussmeier's interceptions midway through the year last year, and without rehashing all of them, because they're distant memories to a lot of you at this point, but you remember that they happened more frequently than you wanted, probably. The general point that I landed on when going through the interceptions was it was not inaccuracy. It was more so a couple bad decisions and then some just flat misreads where he didn't see somebody. And I think that with playing time and with reps, it's easier to develop your ability to read a defense than it is to strengthen your arm or to just get way more accurate. Like, I just don't know if Jalen Milroe is ever going to sit back there and pick somebody apart with his precision passing. I think Garrett Nussmeier is more likely to make the improvement of understanding defenses a little bit better once he's seen them more times. And so that improvement, I think, is reasonable to expect entering his 2nd year. I mean, I'll just go to a couple generally, like the decision-making of Garrett Nussmeier to throw the ball out of his own end zone right after LSU had gotten an interception against Ole Miss and immediately turned the ball back over. Like, that was a bad decision. The decision he made rolling to his left in College Station with a 2-score lead in the second half to make that throw back across the field and have A&M intercepted for their first turnover that they immediately turned into a touchdown. Like, that's a bad decision. And that's something that can come with growth and experience. It's not going to be his first time on the road in front of 100,000 this year. Not going to be his first year starting. He's gotten to see all of that on tape. I feel like those strides are really, really reasonable to suggest. And Garrett's got the benefit now of going into this year with the same offensive coordinator and the same head coach. And he's worked with Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly his entire career. Like, it's years and years now that they've built that relationship. And so Joe Sloan spoke about that dynamic where you've got a guy that's been his quarterback coach now for 4 years and his head coach.
Garrett's fabulous. I've enjoyed coaching him every year in all his different situations and how he's grown, how he's matured, and just the man he's becoming, right? Who he's becoming not only as a football player, but as a person. I've really seen his leadership. I think his confidence and who he is as a person, just his leadership carry over. This year, he was always a leader, but I think he's done an excellent job of that, just really being organic, being real, being genuine, and I think the guys are gravitating to it. It's been good to see. It's been a lot of fun to see for him.
The biggest off-season news that LSU got was Garrett Nussmeier coming back because that sets the roster up. But with that announcement, you realize that it's going to be difficult to keep your quarterbacks around. and you kind of thought Bryce Underwood was next, and then he bails the 11th hour for the cash, and you realize that you got to do some backloading at quarterback because you don't have the depth that you did have. You lost A.J. Swan. He left. Not that he was the answer, but like he was an SEC starter at one point in his career. So how are you going to be able to go into the transfer portal and get a quarterback who knows he's not going to start but does want to be a part of the program? And they got Michael Van Buren after a year, more than half a year as a starter at Mississippi State, 8 games, to come in and sit. And I think that's impressive that LSU was able to pull that off. And Sloan talked about what attracted LSU and that staff to Michael Van Buren.
You know, Mike obviously played extremely well, did a lot of great things at Mississippi State last year. So when we had the opportunity to add him to our roster, we couldn't have been more excited. When he gets comfortable, and you've really seen it, we've seen it a lot this spring, his comfortability in the pocket is exceptional. I mean, it is exceptional. And I think that's a really huge talent for him. And then he can drive the football now. He can touch every piece of the field with his arm. I've really liked his growth. Some of the things that we do, he hasn't necessarily done, but he's a quick learner. Once he does it once and as he feels it, he's been able to make the adjustments and make the growth. I think both Tim Rattay and Trey Holtz and some of the different things they've been able to do. And that's a great part when you have great coaches. We're able to kind of split off and really focus on what the individual guys need. And I think that's helped Mike a ton.
There's so much to take from Michael Van Buren's freshman year. He was under a first-time head coach in Jeff Levy at a new spot. He was a freshman. Blake Shapen goes down a month into the season. He's thrust in there. They didn't stop anybody the whole year on defense, so you're constantly playing offense with the idea that your defense is going to give up 50 points, and you're playing these ridiculously brutal games at Texas, at Georgia. You're just playing really, really difficult opponents week in and week out. And his numbers were pretty good. Were they eye-popping? No. Were they great? No. Was some of it impressive given that he was a freshman thrust into duty? Yeah. He's got some talent. He's a 4-star recruit. And I think this is as good an ad as you could have hoped for if you're LSU, considering that Nussmeier was coming back. If Nussmeier's not coming back, you might be able to grab a little bit of a bigger name to come in and be your starter immediately. But for LSU to get an SEC starting quarterback to come sit on the bench, I thought was really good. Speaking of backup quarterbacks, Juwan Johnson, who started his LSU career at Star and then moved to running back on a whim and spent all the season there, and now he's back at quarterback. And Joe Sloan talked about what he could potentially add to LSU.
Juwan wanted to come back to quarterback. I couldn't be more excited to have him. You know, he's obviously a different style of quarterback than maybe the other two guys. You're going to have to respect his feet. And, you know, just working through him, I think you've seen his growth from a passing standpoint. He throws a good ball, but in terms of his read progressions and doing the things he needs to do. And then, you know, just his footwork and commanding the huddle. I think he has great leadership skills. And obviously he's been electric with the ball in his hand. Made a couple big plays when we've been in live tackle situations. So I think he's been excited. He's been fun to coach. He's attentive, and he's getting after it.
One thing to be aware of with Juwan Johnson, when we go to practice, he does not wear a no-contact jersey. He is in the jersey like the rest of them, which means he can get hit. Now, they're not bringing guys to the ground in most of the periods, so it's more of a thud situation. But you look at the other two quarterbacks that are out there, they've got no contacts on. Juwan Johnson doesn't. And he ripped off a 50-yard run on Saturday when we were there, weaving through. Now, it's a third-team defense, and that needs to be mentioned. But, like, that's the kind of explosive playmaker he can be with the ball in his hands. Y'all heard my takes on the quarterback situation when Juwan Johnson moved, and we found that out last month. And I said, look, I don't like it. Because I don't think that if Juwan Johnson is being asked to play quarterback for 2 weeks with his team, that's going to go very well in the SEC. But if you've got a package for him and you feel like that he can help you develop your running game by being another option, I'm okay with that part. And it sounds like that's part of at least what they're doing right now. So you feel good about Nussmeier. Van Buren's about as good a backup as you're going to nab. And then Juwan Johnson brings a completely different dynamic. I think it's a really healthy spot that LSU's quarterback situation is in. You understand that you're going to have to add to it next year after Nussmeier moves on, but you cross that bridge when you get to it this time and age with that position. There's always going to be a quarterback out there. You just got to make sure that you go get them. So I think LSU's in a good spot with the quarterback, and we'll leave that discussion right there. Our Genesis opening drive every single week, Genesis of Baton Rouge. All of our football content on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. We'll step aside when we come back. Koki Riley talking baseball next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Speaking of Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisbatonrouge.com. Every car that's on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. How about 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty or 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance? All that is part of what you get as a Genesis driver. Genesis of Baton Rouge, right there, airline at PQ, is the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana. If you have not been by the store, just give it a look. It's a first-class facility. The ambiance is phenomenal. When you walk in, you're going to feel like you're in a 5-star hotel, not just your old ordinary auto dealership. The service aisle is like that. The staff treats you like that. You're going to feel like a guest there, not a customer. And the experience, once you leave, you're going to understand the difference in being a Genesis driver. It's a luxury brand of vehicles at a reasonable price. Start your process online at genesisofbatonrouge.com and then go by and see them. Get behind the wheel. Get those 3 years of complimentary maintenance. Get that 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty and get behind the wheel of one of the safest cars on the road. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What If Wednesday coming up in 15 minutes. Get your questions into the Bayou Ford chat. You can also get them to me on Twitter at HuntPalmer88 and take them sports related, take them food related, parenting related. Beck needs parenting tips. You can throw those in the chat.
I'm not getting them from you.
Well, I don't have a lot of tips these days. I don't have a lot of energy these days. We're just not sleeping very much. That's all right. Koki Riley covers the LSU baseball team for The Advocate. Joins us every single Wednesday. Does so now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Koki, how are you?
Doing great. How's it going?
Going well. How was Dish Falk Field? I have not ventured over to Austin to see that. How was the atmosphere, the facilities? What was your impressions there?
Yeah, really good atmosphere. Pretty great facilities. A lot of infrastructure there is very new. You can tell how much money is in that city, how much money is in that campus. And that really paid off for me. And you can just sort of see it. When you see it with your own two eyes, it really pushes that point across. So no, yeah, I mean, the only bummer was that the press box, there was closed windows, so you couldn't really hear the environment super well. But I mean, it was near, if not an entire sellout for every game of the weekend. And those Texas fans certainly care about their team, even if it is a smaller park size wise than the box, just from a capacity standpoint. It's different from that perspective, but in terms of from an infrastructure perspective and from a food perspective as well, you mentioned food earlier. It's a heck of a place to watch a ball game.
Well, LSU played great on Friday, not so much on Saturday and Sunday. Let's kind of break that into segments. What'd you like about Friday?
Just a really well-rounded performance. That pitching-wise, they were about as good as you could possibly ask for. Only 2 runs. One of them was on a solo homer. And, Cade Anderson, he's just really tough to see in terms of I think his delivery is a little bit funkier than what meets the eye, I think, for opposing hitters. I think that he does a good job of his swing path with his arm. Like, I think there's just sort of a suddenness to it, and there's a quickness to it, the way he releases the ball, that his fastball can get up on hitters a little bit quicker than they expect, maybe, or maybe even what the radar gun suggests. And I just think he did a really good job of keeping those Texas hitters off balance. And when you can throw 4 pitches for strikes like he can, and they're all at least solid pitches, and it's really tough to hit, especially on the left side. So you have him going, you have Zach Cowan with his great changeup going, and you have an offense that just continue to do what they've been doing for about a month now in that game. And then things went differently after that, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're going next. They were good for the first 4 innings on Saturday, and then it all kind of fell apart the rest of the weekend. What was the biggest takeaway from the quote-unquote collapse?
I think offensively, they did well. They did good enough to at least be in the game, if not win the game. I mean, 7 runs, the 2-run home run from Derek Curiel, the getting Luke Harrison out of the game pretty early. I thought they did a fine job offensively. The last few innings were kind of tough. Part of that's because Dylan Lantis and the fact that he just kind of shut them down throughout the whole weekend. And Max Grubbs isn't necessarily easy to hit against either. Those are probably their two best relievers. I think like our concentration for Saturday has to be on the pitching side, though. I think Anthony Eidson was really good first time through the order. Second time through the order, he had a lot of trouble. And the second week in a row, we've seen this now against the city competition. Missouri, as you saw this weekend, they can score some runs. So that was actually it was a better stress test than we thought it was going into this weekend. And I thought Anthony was a little bit better this weekend than he was against Missouri. But at the same time, like he was just getting hit more that second time through the order, and they were just a lot more comfortable with seeing his stuff, seeing it out of the hand. And I mean, all the things that Kane Anderson's really good at in terms of throwing guys off and having that quick release, I think Anthony can struggle with that stuff sometimes. And that I think that kind of explains, some of the second time through the order issues. And then with the bullpen, I think that it was odd that they only let Connor Ware throw the one batter. I mean, personally, I think he's one of the better relievers on this team. He's not. I don't think he's been as good as Casey Evans or Zach Cowan, who has. But I mean, opponents are hitting 143 off of him, and he's had some control. Same time, he was probably your best pitcher in the fall. So I think you want to throw him for more than one batter over the weekend. So they take him out for one batter, and then Schmidt comes in and gets the ground ball out and then gives up the 3-run home run. That really changes the game, and quite honestly probably changes the series. And they tried to give him some length after that. He gets hit around a little bit more, walks a couple of guys, and now you're really spinning the wheel as to who you're going to take out of the bullpen. And they retook the lead there, and I think Connor Bench did a nice job against the sixth inning. And then the seventh, I was surprised that they didn't put Casey Evans in there, because you have a chance to win that game with a 1-run lead, or at least, keep it within a run or two, even if you do lose the lead. But instead, you're, finding yourself in a situation where you're just spinning through relievers and you're throwing Connor Benz a little bit longer than they wanted to. I think Jay even said that to me at one point. So it just really snowballed, and part of it's because they wanted to save Kaysen for Sunday. And I think the game was there to at least come close to winning, if not win. And it's just hard to make that argument, make the opposite argument there.
What do you think a realistic expectation is for Anthony Eidson moving forward? We've now seen him for 6 starts, 2 in the SEC.
Get through the order 2 times while keeping your team not just in the game, but only giving up 2 or 3 runs. And instead, it's been 2 4-run outings against where he's really getting hit hard the second time through. Because if you get through the order two times, you're thinking that's like 5 innings, 2 runs, or 1 run. That's pretty good, right? Like if that's not bad at all, especially in this very offensive heavy environment, which is obviously that's the SEC in college baseball. But like I think like that isn't too far out of grasp. I think like he can get there, and I think we also have to remember that Gage Jump struggled at the beginning of conference play last year too. Yeah. Like guys can get better, So I think Jump has probably better stuff than Eidson does, but at the same time, like the way Eidson can command the ball and the fact that it's really tough to tell what's his splitter and what's his slider, and if he can sort of mix those pitches in a little bit even more and really change up the sequencing the second time through. I mean, there's definitely a path to 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 1/3, 3 runs. Like that's kind of what you want. So you can give your offense a little bit of breathing room to give your bullpen a little bit more breathing room.
The 3 freshman pitchers, I know you all talked to Cooper Williams today. William Schmidt got back out there yesterday, as did Maverick Rizzi, who closed the game. Which of those 3 do you think has the best chance over the next couple of weeks to become part of the part of winning on the weekend?
The circle of trust,
yeah.
I guess. Is that a good way to put it? I think Maverick Rizzi can definitely get there because the stuff is just kind of undeniable. It's still 95-97 it's a bowling ball fastball, bowling ball sinker, whatever you want to call it. And he's got a slider to go along with it. I don't think he's necessarily a guy who can go a bunch of innings because he really only has 2 pitches at the moment. But the stuff is so good that I just as long as he's like near somewhat over the plate, then he can get through an inning when you need him to get through an inning. He can get a ground ball when you need him to get a ground ball. And he got a ground ball even in that inning against Texas that just got through the hole, right? I don't think that ball was terribly hard hit. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember that play exactly right now. I mean, do you remember that one better than I do?
I don't. I don't.
Okay.
I know. In my eyes, the guy that gave up a lot of singles that weren't necessarily crushed but did get through the infield. I thought Ianson. They just hit hard ground balls through the infield consistently. Which you get one of those at somebody, it changes the fortune a little bit. But he didn't.
Yeah. But when they're hard hit, it's harder to, I guess, for lack of a better word, excuse them, right? So I think Ianson gave those 3 straight hits, right? I think 2 of them were pretty hard hit. One of them wasn't. But either way, like, they were seeing the ball better off of him. But to get back to your question, like, I think Rizzi just that bowling ball fastball and the fact he can get it up to 97, 98, like, that's enough of a weapon right there. And he throws enough strikes to where I think it's probably him. But I think Cooper Williams is going to have a role too. And I wouldn't be surprised if William Schmidt works his way back just because of, the talent that those guys have, and Cooper Williams, especially given the fact that he's a lefty.
So they scored 9 runs in the first inning yesterday, which was pretty good. How much do you think they kind of got the Saturday and Sunday monkey off their back and heading into this week last night?
Baseball is really hard, so to expect these guys to score 7 to 8 runs in every single game is kind of unrealistic, and I think Riojas was a little bit better than I think anyone thought he would be in that game, and they got to him at the end. But then you put in Volantis. Volantis has been shutting down everybody. Not to give these guys excuses, but at the same time, like, it's unrealistic to expect them to score 7 to 8 runs in every single game, even if they are one of the better offenses in the SEC. They're going to have an off day here or there. It's baseball. It happens. If that happens more regularly during conference play, then we can, sort of pick apart what's going on. And there's certain individuals who haven't been amazing, but they've just been okay or solid at the plate. But I still think this lineup is in much better shape than what we saw last year, and that's the biggest difference between last year's team and this year's team.
Any surprise that Jay Johnson told you all he's planning on going with the same starting rotation, being that it's moved up a day?
Not really. I mean, they'll get the full week next week, and then they'll get the extra day the week after that. And I don't know. Like, is there a huge difference between 6 days of rest and 7 days of rest for these guys? They're getting plenty of rest, the starters at least. And I think it's fine. And I don't think Jay wants to make decisions on the rotation after 2 weeks, and I kind of don't blame him for each. And if you go through each case, I kind of blame him. I mean, Kate Anderson has easily been the best starter. He's the Friday guy, of course. Anthony Ianson, I mean, you kind of need him regardless to get through, the order twice, and that's what he's got to work towards doing. He can do it once. We've seen him do it a couple times now. It's that second time through where it's become an issue. And then with Chase Shores, he's still coming off the surgery, and I can understand why they want to, give that guy as much time as possible to figure things out. Because, again, when this team's out of Ianson and Shores pitching really well, and right now that's not happening, but at the same time, the 2023 team took a big leap because Thatcher Hurd was great at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like Chase Shores is in that sort of role for this team this year.
We'll see. We'll see you at the box this weekend, Koki. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Koki Riley with The Advocate, covering LSU baseball. You can find him here every single Wednesday in hour number 1. We'll come back with What If Wednesday next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, just phenomenal to work with. I know that it's the spring and we don't think about hurricanes in the spring, but we know that they show up in the summer, and summer's up next. So if you haven't given any thought to your property policy as a commercial business or want potentially another option when you look towards your renewal as hurricane season approaches, don't wait until the hurricane blows through. At that point, you got what you got. If you'd like another option on the property side of things, Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group are happy to look at it. Maybe it's not just the hurricane side of things. Maybe your limits are not properly put up. Maybe you've got some exclusions that you don't know about. They're experts, and they'll go in and look at your policy. They'll audit it. They'll show you where there may be some shortcomings, some blind spots, and they'll make sure that you're taken care of as we get into another storm season here in South Louisiana. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Find them online at HighlandIG.com, the Highland Insurance Group.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Chugging right along here on this Wednesday. Saints free agency class was ranked by ESPN.com. We'll do that in 10 minutes from right now. Matthew Bruni at 2 o'clock talking the LSU women's basketball team as they head up to the Sweet 16 this coming weekend. LSU and Louisiana Lafayette obviously played last night. I'll talk about that in hour number 2. SEC Baseball Power Rankings coming at you as well. So tons and tons to do. Let's dive into What If Wednesday now.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
Alrighty, first one here. What if you could immediately love a food or drink that you currently don't?
Interesting. I've got a few that come to mind. I'll probably talk it out and see if I can figure out which one I would go with. Like, I don't like coffee, but I don't really need coffee.
You don't want to love coffee
yeah.
because it's addictive.
Yeah. Although some people say it's very healthy. I don't love wine. A lot of people like to serve wine. It's generally a nice cocktail type deal, but I find an alternative there. Now, as far as like food goes, my thought goes, what are something that's really healthy that I can eat a lot that I don't currently like, and nothing like jumped to mind. I don't like onions and I don't like mushrooms, and that is in a lot, and that is probably where I'll go. Like there are caramelized onions in every dish ever served, it feels like, and I always have to go no onions. I had to do that at lunch today, so that is probably one that I would go to. Like I'll cook onions. I cook the crap out of onions for like gumbo, and when you're cooking down like ground beef or something that can cook for a long time or whatever. Like, but it would probably be like one of those, so I wouldn't have to be so picky and such a dork. Like we talked last week about like people bring stuff over when we have the baby, and I don't like this or the that.
Mushrooms.
Like, yeah, it's okay. So you know, I'll go with onions, because I feel like there's a lot of situations where onions I have to take off.
Okay, I would probably go with. I actually eat a good bit of vegetables. I don't know if there's one that I don't like that I know kale is considered like a superfood, I think, and it's supposed to be like really good for you, and I don't mind eating it, but if I loved eating it, it'd probably be good for me, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd probably go with that. But all right, next one here. What if it's an all SEC Final Four?
That would be disgusting. That's what we get in Omaha every freaking year, and it's miserable. I would really hate that. Like as I look at the SEC teams, like I don't hate Tennessee. I don't hate Bruce Pearl. It's just Oates. Oates is under my skin. He did the one thing where he yelled at Will Wade to GTFO, and I just lost it, and I'll never look at him the same again. I just really dislike him without knowing him, and so I don't want them to win.
Yeah.
I don't even care about Alabama's basketball fans, because I don't find them to be nearly in the same tone as their football fans, who are just completely delusional. And so I don't have to deal in that world with their basketball team. I just don't want Nate Oates to win.
Yeah, I don't either. But that would be pretty. I don't think Ole Miss is going to win, but they've had a good run so far. And then
I don't even care about them as much. Like, it's basketball. My hatred doesn't run as deep because LSU hasn't been that good at basketball my whole life, and no one's like ruined. And in basketball, like, you can lose to that team and you just still keep going. It's just like no big deal. You lost on February 3rd. All right, next. So it's not that big a deal. So yeah, it's just Alabama. That's all I got to pull against.
All right, we got some from the chat here. What if Nuss didn't return this year? Do you think they still would have gotten all these weapons at receiver or maybe a high-end quarterback?
I think they would have gone for a quarterback for sure, and I think it probably would not have been Michael Van Buren.
No.
Although, I think they do like him. I'm trying to think of the high-end quarterbacks that moved. It wasn't as big a year.
I mean, Carson Beck, but I don't know if they had
I don't think that's it. I mean, he's far less productive than like Dylan Gabriel was, and even Cam Ward was. And those were 2 years ago. I don't even remember now that I'm thinking about like who the high-profile quarterbacks that moved were this year. But they would have gone. The answer to the question both ways, no, I do not think they would have been able to have as much success with the receiver, even though they were deep into the NIL game. And two, I think they would have gone and gotten another quarterback.
All right, next one here. What if you could choose between attending? Was it? I thought he said you couldn't attend, or let's see, where was it at?
It was in the chat.
Okay, what if you could choose between attending the Masters and playing the next day, or guaranteeing a national championship in football and baseball? That's pretty ridiculous.
Okay, so my choices are go to the Masters and play on Monday, or you're going to win the national championship in baseball this summer and football coming up. I want to be very clear.
Oh, wow.
Very clear.
Okay.
This is unequivocal. There is nothing you could have put after that next one that would have made me take it. There's not one thing.
Yeah, no.
And I realize that there are LSU fans listening think that's the craziest thing they've ever heard.
I don't think
to go to a golf tournament and then play 18 holes of golf as opposed to 2 national championships. There's nothing you could have put outside of I'm talking about myself personally. I start talking about my family, my kids, that kind of stuff. Like, I want them to have incredible stuff, and I would find ways to do that. But for Hunt Palmer, playing Augusta National, after that, there is nothing else there's nothing you can experience on this earth outside of a generational windfall of cash that qualifies. That's it. It's the end of the bucket list, the last thing on it. So, yeah, I'm pulling for LSU baseball to get this thing done in a couple of months, and I'll be all in on football too, and that's great. And I've got some memories of that, and they're phenomenal. It's the thing that I'm most passionate about in my fandom, but playing Augusta, like, that's the end of the bucket list. That's where it stops.
And let's just say, I think I'll ask you, but is it not make it easier to make that decision based on the fact that LSU has won plenty of national championships?
Probably.
Both baseball and
I'm not an
football.
Ole Miss fan or an A&M fan. Like, I've got everybody that I pull for besides LSU basketball has won the whole thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't even like a kid and like barely remember it. I mean, I don't remember 91 and 93, but like I vividly remember 96, 97, 2000, 09, 23, then 03, 07, 19, and then 16 for the Cubs. That's 9. I have 9 championships. So I'm spoiled from that perspective for people outside of Boston. So yeah, that's the end of the bucket list ends there.
All right,
what about you, Beck? You want to go play Augusta, or you want to watch championships?
Yeah, no, that's a pretty easy question for me as well. It's definitely going to be the.
How about Buzzy, who's played Augusta and been on a national championship team?
Yeah, I know. That's a good
Wow,
good thought.
Buzz.
Yeah. All right, I got a few here. My brother actually sent this one in.
Wow. Any more family members that are going to ruin all the
Maddie,
young dreams?
My wife has one too.
Okay, good. Lovely. Let's throw them at me.
All right, first one is for my brother.
Okay.
What if you could travel back in time to attend the legendary 2004 Goo Goo Dolls live in Buffalo show, but after that, you can never listen to them again?
Oh, that's the one where it rained?
Yeah.
I don't need to see him in the rain. I can see him. I can see him when it's not raining.
Yeah, but
I can continue to listen moving forward.
But Hunt, it was a legendary.
It was a legendary
concert.
show. I found out about it like 4 months ago. So
how did you find out about it 4 months ago? Okay.
Instagram showed it to me. But yeah, I appreciate the question. I really thought it was going to be something really impactful that I can go back and look at. Just the Goo Goo Dolls playing in the rain.
No, not that. All right, my wife has one here too. All right, what if in his tenure at South Carolina, Paul Mainieri wins a College World Series?
That'd be great. I'm pulling for Coach. I hope he does great there. I hope he loses by the 10-run rule every time he plays LSU. Right? Like I think he did a great job at LSU. I have always appreciated our interactions. He came on this show a couple times, including for an entire hour before opening day in 2022. So I'm pulling for him. I don't think his team's very good this year at all. And I have my questions about whether he's going to be able to handle this whole NIL paying players portal thing. But I'm pulling for him. I just don't want him to beat LSU. So that's it for a What If Wednesday. We'll come back and talk Saints. That's coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Up hour number one here, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. What's the name of the rapper who has the gift that says another one? DJ Khaled.
Oh, I was going to say, Hunt.
Nailed it. Got it right.
I think you should be able to get that.
So this is basically that for a segment. Like, it's not breaking news. It's not a hot take. It's not revolutionary. It's not well researched. It's just another one. And it's ESPN going through and ranking the NFL free agency classes top to bottom. And the New Orleans Saints come in at number 20 on this list. Key acquisitions and returning players: edge rusher Chase Young, safety Justin Reed, tight end Juwan Johnson, safety Tyrann Mathieu, defensive tackle Devon Godshaw. That's the class. And so what does ESPN.com love about this class? Well, they signed internal players. Chase Young and Juwan Johnson had existing void years on their deals. Dead money was ready to accelerate on the 2025 cap if those two walked. But they extended Young, same true of Johnson, and they saved money against the cap by backloading the deal. What did they not love about the Saints offseason? Tell me if this sounds familiar. Did not love signing external players. Why are they giving Justin Reed a 3-year deal? He's a good player. The contract is fine, but stop signing new deals. Give all of Reed's snaps to a third rounder and see if it's a hit. If so, you can get out of this dreadful, terrible, debilitating cap hell that made them restructure Derek Carr's deal. These are not my words. It's ESPN.com's. The story continues. It's no longer impressive or interesting that New Orleans keeps on spinning the carousel of contending by borrowing from future cap years. It's just mismanagement, and it continues to hurt the team. Again, another one. Everyone. Like, it's a unanimous opinion. And it's just that. It's an opinion. It's not a fact, but it's a unanimous opinion. Everyone who looks at this Saints franchise and looks at the current roster and looks at the cap and looks at their record year over year goes, why are you doing this? Yet they keep doing it. And it to me, it's the most fascinating piece to this organization because it's really all we have to analyze. What is there to analyze about a team that last year fell apart and fired their coach, a coach that comes in that hasn't done anything as the head coach, a roster that we don't think can compete in 2025, and a general sense from the outside of the organization, if not from the inside, that like, yeah, you're 2 years away from getting this thing figured out where you've got some young players that can help, that are a little bit cheaper, and your cap situation's better. But we all at the same time sit here and go, your cap situation's never going to get better over the course of those 2 years if you keep signing players. And Mickey Loomis continues to walk out to the press conference when he does one, gum or not, and say, well, yeah, we're going to be aggressive. We're not taking a step back. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to make the team the best it can be. And we're all going, well, that sounds admirable on its face without any context to it, but we have all the context. It's all readily available. It's not just Hunt Palmer, 1-3 in Baton Rouge. It's not just Matt Moscona, 3-6 Baton Rouge. Not just Charles Hannegriff, 11-1 Baton Rouge. It's not just Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net. It's also ESPN.com. Everybody who's looking at this is going, you might need to do something different. And there goes Mickey, who just takes his foot and hammers it down on the accelerator and keeps going. And it's off the cliff. It's gone. The car is smoldering at the bottom of the cliff. And there's just no intent from the organization, it appears, to change. Now, I would add a little bit of color to the end of this and be like, they didn't go nuts. The Godshaw deal is not crazy. The Chase Young deal is not crazy for a 25-year-old at that position. I don't like the Juwan Johnson deal. I really, really don't at all like the Brandon Cooks deal. But it's not, none of them are massive and none of them are a ton of years. But it's still an unwillingness to really put the brakes on. And that's what everyone is asking from the outside. And the Saints continue to just stare it down, scoff at it, and run right by. And I don't know how many years of mediocrity and or ineptitude it's going to take for that attitude to change. But right now you're just mired in the middle of it, and it just feels like you're never going to get out. And so I feel badly for Saints fans that you sit here and you root for the team and you read up on your team and you listen for your team and you pay attention, and everyone's kind of going, well, this is not good. This is not good. This is not good. And the Saints sit there and go, yeah, we're good. Let's go. No, you're not. You're bad. You're very bad. And you need to get worse and clear all this bad stuff up before you get good again. That's what everyone seems to say. And the Saints just don't seem to pay attention. Time's a flat circle, I guess. Onward to the next. That's it for hour number 1 here. If you missed any of today's show in the first hour, you can always catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, of course on YouTube. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. If you're looking for your Saints content, Hunt on Saints. Looking for your LSU content, Hunt on LSU. We opened the show today with some Joe Sloan sound from LSU Spring Football talking quarterbacks. So check that out at Hunt on LSU. Koki Riley talking LSU baseball. It was a What If Wednesday. Did a little bit of Saints. We'll pause for Sports Center. Matthew Bruni talking LSU Tigers female women's basketball going to the Sweet 16. We'll do that after Sports Center on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.